also for YouTube for people to watch at their leisure. And if you're watching on YouTube and you have any requests or suggestions or anything you want to see, just leave a comment and subscribe if you like the videos, and then I can keep going and be inspired to keep going. So I'm working in the Daydreams book, and I do like this. It's got a hardback cover and I do like it, and the paper quality is nice as well, and it's just off white, which again is something else I really like in my colour books. So I've got some pastel pencils, and again, what you could do is use a little damp brush and just damp and tease the colour. I don't think I can do that today. And when you've coloured it, instead of blending it with the blending, the shaper or the blender or the torsion or whatever you want to use, if you use a damp brush to push the colour around, when you've finished, it's set. It's not just pastel pencil, and there's less dust. It's about the same amount of dust because you just put a little bit and then you blow. But you don't really need to press on very hard, and that's why I find it a bit easier to use. I'm probably going to use the blender because I do find that easier. I have a damp baby white from yesterday that I can just tease the colour off, and then you get bits of fluff and all sorts. But if you use your finger or thumb, you can normally take this back to its original state. And then when you're using a paler colour, you're not contaminating your colours. I'm using the Derwent little eraser because I find it easier to use, and there is a bit of a ridge on it, so you can actually get a fine highlight. If I need to sharpen my pencils, I use my Derwent guard and my scalpel, and I'm using a really nice soft sable Winsor Newton brush that's never actually been used to brush off the little bits of eraser that I need. But I'm not brushing the pastel because that would mix it together, and we don't want to do that. And that's all I'm really using, apart from my 72 Derwent pencils, which I have in my little art bag sleeves, and I like that, so I can just flick this box over and I can see most of the colours instantly what I want. And because these are almost pure pigment, what the colour is at the end of the pencil is basically what you get. So there's not much guessing. You know what you're getting before you put it down. Unlike the Inktense and some of the others, is you can change the colour. Here you can't. Oopsie. So I'm going to start with the toadstools, because again I like to start. Now there's a marron, which I don't actually. Sorry, maroon. Marron is brown in Spanish, I think, isn't it? Let me just have a quick look at this one. So it's probably too dark. There's a crimson, which again is too dark. There's a cadmium red and a raspberry. I think I used the raspberry, but we'll just double check. There's always a bit of dust. It's always good to have a bit of a play. What's between the cadmium red and the raspberry? What's the crimson? Possibly a little bit too dark. I think it's going to have to be the cad red. It's going to have to be the cadmium red. Oh, sorry, I did ask what everybody was doing. Suzanne says she loves the eraser and the electric sharpener. Right, so let me just see if I can zoom in a little bit and we can see what I'm doing. Oops, that's not the right way, that's zooming in. And then we just make sure that we're in focus. The light is a little bit bad. Oops, sorry about that. I think that's best. So I've got cadmium red, what P130, and just scratching, basically just touching the top of the little. There will be some crinkles because I've got tracing paper between, because I don't want to mess up the pages, so there's going to be a little bit of crinkle, so apologies for that. I've sorted the fan noise out, so there shouldn't be a lot of fan noise. Oh, now there's a toadstool actually on the top there. And then by the feet there's some more toadstools. Now I don't normally work this way, so I'm not sure how it's going to work, because I normally leave I think I'm going to have to use watercolours instead of a blender for this, because I've just worked down here. So when I'm working at the top now, my hand's going to be on this, so I'll have to fix it. And by fixing it, excuse me, I've worked out an easy way with a damp brush. So I just need to tip a drop of water. Whoops, all of the electrics, not good. Drop of water onto there. So this is quite a large brush, and it's probably for this area use a finer one, I think. I'll go back to my 4 favourite ones, which is a 1, 2, 3 rigger. I'll leave that one there because I probably need that one. Oopsie. So I've got 1, 2, 3 graduate Daily Rowner riggers, and then the liner 10-0, and they tend to give me the right amount of shades that I need. And they're just damp. Again, I'm going to stick those there. So it's quite a fine space. I'm probably going to see if I can do with number 1. Start down here because I need to get this one fixed. So just going to, like you would with a blender, just push that colour around. And then that one's finished. So we need to just damp brush back to the next one. And push the colour around. So you're just using a damp brush, but it's almost like pure pigment. I might get 2 shapes out of here. Oops, and I've got over the line there. Now I can't go over that. It's done, because I could, if it was just pastel, I could rub it out with an eraser, but because it's watercolour now, I can't. But the beauty of it is when that's dried, it will be set, so I don't have to worry about the ordinary pastel, traditional pastels fading away. They are set with water, so they are fixed. So there's no fixatives, it's just a little bit of water. Because you can make any watercolour by scraping any amount of pastel, professional pastel or pastel sticks. You scrape that into a dish and add water, you'll get a watercolour. So these become watercolours and pastel pencils as well. So you get the best of both worlds. So they're set. Now that is set, it's not going to go anywhere. So I'll move up here slightly to the pud. And the camera's a little bit far away, but I'm hoping you can kind of push that down a little bit. Hope that's better. Oopsie. I thought you could kind of shouldn't play with things when they're working, should not really. Right. Hopefully we're in frame. So again, just pushing that little colour. So this is quite a fine liner, this one. And you don't want too much water. If you have the rigour, you'll probably find you can do 3 or 4. If you just have a very fine brush, you'll probably just do 1 and then dampen the brush again. So if you wanted to blend 2 colours together, you could put 2 colours and then do it exactly the same way. I just find this a bit easier for colouring in, that's all. And then we want the little one at the top. So this damp brush is making that pastel. It's blending it all over the page and then it's setting it because it's now a watercolour. So you've killed 2 birds with 1 stone. But you've kept the lovely pastel colour. Has anybody else got any questions? You can pop them in caps because, as I say, oopsie, I'm trying to work off a very small mini laptop. Yeah, don't use pencil sharpeners if you can help it, Suzanne. It's just a pencil eating monster. So I think I found that there's a little yellow flower up there, or maybe a primrose. I think we'll have a little yellow flower. So I quite like the cadmium because it's grown on me a little bit. Oopsie, sorry, too far. So I just want a little bit of colour, and that's all I'm doing, is just scratching. And it's a tiniest bit of dust, but if you don't bear down with the pencil, you're just scratching the surface gently, you don't waste anything, and I quite like that idea. I think I'm going to put, again, you know, There's hardly any dust. If I was to scribble with them, I'd just create tons of dust, but I don't want to do that. And these are very quick, very quick. And again, that's what I like. So we'll tease that colour out. Now this is probably going to be more flat than blended highlights and lowlights, but again, it's quite nice to just do a little fast one. And so we've got the snowflakes. I think that's snow, so we'll leave that. We want a pale green there. We have a May green. I think May green might be nice for this. And again, there was very little. In fact, I'm not actually wetting the brush. I'm just rubbing it on the damp baby white, but it is very damp. So I'm literally just scratching the tiniest amount and blowing the dust away. I just had to make sure I had no yellow or red on there. The yellow would be fine, but red would make it a bit darker, and I want a nice pea green. So it's quite nice to do this. I was thinking late at night that maybe if you had to fix the Bennett Kleins, they might just disintegrate because they're very thin paper. So I think I might just leave mine as they are. I think we need a nice flower there. I do have, oh, I have a dark fuchsia and a burgundy. That looks quite nice. So what's the difference between the dark fuchsia and the that's the dark fuchsia. It's a very subtle difference. So those two go on very nice together because they're very different. But I quite fancy the burgundy. Oopsie. Maybe that's just a little bit too dark. Don't to give our moggy a scare, do we? Oops. Anybody got any questions? Sorry about the enabling riggers. I'm just going to put a little bit of colour there. And then activate it. This is very much like watercolouring with pencils. You just activate it and drag it down. The pigments are a little bit softer though, because there's a little bit more waxy gum with the watercolour pencils than there is with these. But of course the beauty of these is you've got your pastel, you've got your pencil, and you've also got your watercolour. So that is actually a very pale pastel colour. I could do that one up there as well. If I press on, I get more dust. If I don't press on, I don't get as much dust. And I quite like the idea that they're really nice and soft, but they are kind of fixed. That's quite nice. That is something to less worry about. And originally I thought that was a bit of a bumblebee, but I don't think it is. So I think we'll have some pink, maybe violet. Oh no, maybe this colour. Violet oxide. We'll make the fronds. Oh, these are stamens actually, I think, aren't they? It's very like chalk, you're just teasing a little bit of colour. That's Alfie snoring in the kitchen. It's better being in there than in here. Is anybody else? Got any questions? I'm just trying to drink the coffee while it's warm. I think we'll have a different green on there. We'll have a kind of a bit of an orange, olive green, sorry, going on there, I think. And again, that's a bit of a small space, is that? But once you've coloured in one or two, there is a little bit of colour on the paintbrush, so you can tease that. And the only reason I use a rigger is because I've got bad hands and the bounce is all in the bouncy paintbrush. There's no bounce. That's quite pale, is that? So I quite like that. It's a bit different. And then we've got, I think it was the May green that we used. So this is very quick. So, and it's sometimes nice to just be able to see things appearing instantly. Because I have my colour books that I like to leave and do kind of in 2 or 3 days. But then sometimes I like the idea of just finishing a page off in a day. So this was going to be my kind of quick journaly type so if I did a page a day in here, it would be quite nice for me. Oops, a bit too wet. You can tell instantly if it's too wet. And that's what worried me about the Bennett Klein with doing the watercolouring. So I think I'll leave the Bennett Kleins to be just pastel pencil. And I can live with having some tracing paper between. So I'm just manoeuvring that around. And as long as I've touched all of it, it'll be fixed. I think that's a little grub, that. Oh no, it isn't, it's my eyesight. There we go. Now I nearly made a mistake. That little one here is not what it should be, so I can take that out. And again, my little Derwent electric eraser sounds like a busby stuck in a spider's web. And that's gone. But I can actually brush that off because it's set. All that is set now. I've just brushed off that little bit because I made a mistake. I thought it was a thing and it wasn't. It was the house. So I need a very pale colour to do the mushroom stems now. And again, it's really easy, just a very quick single solitary line. And that one was with the pale olives. It's very, very pale, is that? And if I put that in there, it's going to remind me. You can barely see this colour. Really is very, very, very pale. Almost the colour of the background. So that looks like a little bit of a flower going on there. So we could have another colour. The tomato orange is quite nice. So I think we'll have a little bit going on there. I'll put a little bit on the other side. And again, I'm not using hardly any particles, so there's hardly anything to blur away. So that's good for my asthma and good for the fact that the pencils will stay quite nice. I slide this across very carefully, sorry. And I like the fact that that's actually finished now. I don't have to mess about with it. darker red around the outside. I just thought that would brighten things up a little bit down there. Then slide across that very carefully and do the same thing. I think just put a little bit of colour on that one. And sometimes it's quite nice to get them all done in one. Excuse me, has anybody got any questions or anything? I don't know why if the heating's on it's so cold, but it is. I'm just going to push that to the edges very carefully. So without actually thinking about it, I've used the complementary colours. I'm actually going to put some cherry red little berries in there, I think, as well. Although it could be mistletoe. So we could leave them white. They look okay. They are slightly greener than that. They're not looking as green, but they are green. Don't know what to do. It's kind of a bit of a so slide them across. So these are real pastel pale colours. They're not vivid at all. They're very pastel-y. I think I missed a flower there, so I can go back. So I need my tomato in the middle. The raspberry on the outside. And that's kind of stuff. I quite like the little white berries, but I have to see what I'm going to do at the end. There's a lot less rubbing, I have to say, with this. As soon as it acts to water, it's reactive, so that's quite nice. So I quite like that. I've got to do the purple patterns. And there's hardly any dust actually. I think I've just about sussed out the pressure, so there's no dust. Oh, there's very little. So that's what the little kitties looks like. So pull that down there and do the little house next. So we need some little terracotta houses. And I want the cadmium red for the little windows. So there's very little scribbling and there's very little waste. So I'll start with the yellow first. Just make that a little bit darker. So it's very, very quick. So again, I really like the idea it's very quick. Oh, Alfina's awake. We've got some very pale green on top here. Let me just rejiggle those toadstools because I don't think they're going to do that well. Such a very pale colour. So thanks guys for stopping by. I hope you're all well. Oh, hi DM Mum. DRD Mom, sorry, I do apologise. Anybody else that's popping in? Having a play with the Daydreams and the Derwent watercolour pencils, pastel pencils, sorry, but I'm actually making them into a watercolour because I'm instead of blending with a blender, I'm actually blending them with a watercolour damp brush, and that's creating a watercolour. And the beauty of that is when it's dry, the pastel is set. So there's no fixatives and there's no having to put plastic between, or greaseproof paper, deli paper or tracing paper. It doesn't matter because it's all set. And it's very quick. You just scribble a little bit of, scribble a tiny amount of colour in, push it around with a damp brush. Oh no, the little monster. And then it's very quick, so I quite like that because it is fairly quick. Sorry, I was off camera, I do apologise. I'll do this little house next. So I'm using terracotta for the roof. And I use terracotta for that one. And I'm going to use a different one for that one. Alfina. I'm going to use I think I'll use a slate colour. Oh, he's such a bad puppy. Never mind. Alfie, what's this? Blow some colour away and then just colour it across. Oh, yep. The rat bag. Alfie. So tease the colour up there. It's like a blue slate. Yeah, don't come in here now. Rat bag. Alfie. So you think if you come and sit down here, Sneaky, you think Dexter did it, won't we? Did Dexter do it? Oh, love puppies. So I just swoosh that colour there. And then we'll just activate that blue indigo, but it looks almost like a blue slate if we've used it like this. So we want some paler colours for some of these buildings. I think I'll do this one the same, but I'll do the others different, I think. So there is a tiny bit of dust, but very little. and you find that there will be a tiny amount of this will actually make it into colour, and it will sit. So I'm glad I've sorted the fixative problem out by adding water instead of just blending the colour. And it's just a damp brush. So I think what we'll try and do is do a little bit of and I scratched a bit more than normal there, so of course I wasted more pencil. But we can push this about and make a different colour and blend them together. On the page. Just have and just push that about a bit. It's very forgiving, is this colour. Very forgiving. So I've managed to get to 503 subscribers. So thank you everybody who watches on YouTube, and thank you everybody who joins me on Ustream. I really enjoy these making these videos and just drawing live and then reading the comments of what people like. So that's quite good. But you know, I do try to take heed of things that you don't like, so I've hopefully sorted the problem with the fan. And please subscribe and like and make some comments about what you want to see more of and what you don't want to see. I like these windows, I have to say, so I'm just going to do them in yellow and then I'll go over them with the window shade because it's just a bit too thin, is that one? So I can just do that, and I'll probably use the terracotta, I think. But if you activate them all, you know that they're all set as a watercolour. And I want just a little bit of a tiniest little bit of colour in that. So finish that little bit. Oh dear, excuse me. So that's what we've done so far, just very pastel pale colours, not very vibrant. I've left the snow alone and I've left the baubles alone. Oh yeah, excuse me, I can't believe it's so cold in this room. So has anybody got any questions? I'm kind of putting my pencils next to my little water pot that I've used. But the nicest thing is that's completely set now. That's not going to go anywhere. So I've become, in all intents and purposes, a watercolour. But I've got some quite nice, vibrant colours. And they would go darker. They go slightly darker, but they go even further darker if I used a fixative. Has anybody got any questions, or is everybody happy with that? Excuse me, I haven't got rid of my silly cold yet. So now we need the putty tat. It could have yellow and orangey stripes, couldn't it? So we've got a yellow ochre and a tan. So we'll have a bit of a play. And you can tell I've pressed down not too much, but a little bit. So that's a bit of a tabby colour. And then we could do with a bit of a, there's the burnt ochre. So I've got three colours. So I'm going to go in the middle here. I should do his tail first. Do his tail first. So we've got in the middle. And then we've got, oops, the next colour around there. Everywhere else is this colour. I've got to remember it's the lightest touch and then the darkest one. I'm going to use a bigger brush for this one, number 3. Here we go. So all I'm going to do now is tease the pale colour across. And see what that does. So I've got rid of any lines. And then I'm going in with the next one and blending that together. and it's almost a stripy tabby. Just faintly see some kind of stripes going on there. So I've got the pale one in the middle. Actually, this isn't the palest one, but never mind. Oh, it is. And then I could do with a little bit of the darkest. Just scribbling a little bit on the top. So we'll start with the middle. I'm going to use a bigger rigger as well, you know, because I want to be damper, but I've got to have a biggest kind of damp brush to keep the continuity going, I think, possibly. So we can manoeuvre that colour into there. So we don't get any brush lines. We want a nice it's just a little bit too damp. Need a nice kind of natural progression from light to dark. It looks like more like a stripe and not too contrived. Now the paper is buckling a little bit because I'm using the second one was quite a lot of water, but it's not doing anything to the actual paper. That's because that brush was a little bit wet. Got to be a bit careful with your riggers, otherwise they get too saturated with colour. And we can push that colour. This is when the riggers, the bigger ones, misbehave, because it's a big rigger this, and it wants to go where it wants you to go, not where you want it to go. So you've got to be a bit kind of pushy with it, because if you're not careful, it will run away with you. So you could actually physically hold them down if you wanted. So let's see what happens. Have you got any questions? Oh, hi J-Love, welcome to Bunny's Designs. Everybody else is popping in. I'm playing with my pastel pencils in the Daydreams colour book, but I'm turning them into a watercolour so that they're going to be set, because I quite like the idea of them. I made a mistake when I started and I put colour on the bottom left hand corner, which was impossible to keep from smudging, so I decided it would be easier to make them into a little bit of a watercolour. So I've got the really nice pastel shades, and it's buckled a little bit, but not much. I'm trying not to use a brush that's too kind of wet, but it is fairly wet, is this rigger, and it tends to want to go where it wants you to go. Well, it wants to go rather than where you want it to go. So there's a little bit of buckling there, but it's going to dry. Okay, it'll dry fine. So just kind of scratching some bits of colour. And you soon get a flat ridge on the pencil, so it's quite nice that you can do that. I'm going back to the number 3 because I want to keep it as dry as possible, really, so manoeuvre that up into there. So the smaller brush, the less buckling and the more control you've got. So I quite like that little bit there, so to carry on with the cat. And let me put that one down now because it's a bit too big. So the back paw is going to be both dark colours. Then just a damp rigger just to tease that colour on, and that's blending it about a bit and also acting as a fixative, so this colour will not run now, so you've made it into a proper watercolour. and we're nearly home now, so we want a little bit of a dark there. I haven't decided what colour to do is ribbon yet. So let me just have a bit of a damp brush, and we'll start up here, the palest, and just tease that across. And that's just activating all that pastel pencil. And carry on under there. And as soon as you hit it with a damp brush, it kind of blends together and then sticks to the page like an ordinary watercolour. But it's quite well behaved, I think. Don't want any pencil marks. I did scribble it very quickly to show how it was done, but I'd normally have my thumb over the top of it, so I could possibly get that a little bit darker and play with the. I know we do 3 colours. And then kind of blend that to a really nice. So thanks everybody for stopping in, and thank you YouTubers for watching. I hope everybody's well and colouring in and practicing colour mixing and playing with different colours and different mediums. It's quite a good way to do it in a colour book. And then soon you fly off and you're not using colour books, you're creating your own designs. So you can get quite a nice blended effect on here if you wanted. I'm trying not to use too much water if I can help it. I would do this probably a lot neater than this, but I'm just kind of rushing a little bit. do his toes. Do his toes. So our put tat is finished. There's the two lilac colours I've been using, which I can scratch. And then we've got the palest one, which I'll just put in at the top, and then dragging that down. So I can put these away now. So this purple goes in to there. And to put that in there. So, oopsie. So we can just tease that colour through. And this one. And there, you can blend it to pale watercolour if you want. I actually quite like those colours. I think they're quite nice, those. And then there's the stamens. And then we had, we can put the reds away because we don't have any more red. Oh yes we do. We have tomato and raspberry. And tomato was the inside of these flowers. And then the raspberry was the outside, and it's just a little gentle scratch of colour. Blow away the dust, that can go away, which is 4. And 20. And we need the liner because it wants to be, so I'm working with the liner here because it wants to be quite a fine line. So we've got the orange in there. And the orange in that one. We'll do all the orange first. Because then you're not washing your brush out so many times then. So then we just want to touch that colour. And once it's touched and blended, it's going to dry a watercolour. So you can still reactivate it if you put water to it. And then we have the greens. And we have the darker green for this one. I'm not sure what colours to do that. I think they're purple then. All these little ones are all green. So just a couple of strokes in there. Just one stroke for each one, which is easy. This is the worst bit, it's just putting a little bit of colour on it. I'm going to leave that purple, I think, but it's very quick. I love the colours, the different ones than I would normally choose, so the colours are different. They still have kind of a little bit of a pastel effect, which I like. So I can put that one away now. And this one. And then just activate it with the little 10 liner. Oh, thank you. It's completely different again to what I normally do, but it solved the problem of fixatives and dampening a brush. But again, I'm not sure how I would cope in the Bennett Klein books. But I like the fact these are actually fixed now. I mean, blending wise, I probably could have done better. But you just have to just stroke each one to activate all that colour and make sure it becomes a watercolour. So halfway there, and the eye just getting a little bit darker, just a tidgy darker. But they would do that with fixative. But it's a colour book. I know they're not going to last forever. As I say, I've got some old fixative that I must have had 10 years, so it may work, it may not. But you know, this is a little colour book. This is just messing about. This isn't art. And it's certainly not my art. This is not my art, so it's, you know, I'm colouring somebody else's in, so I'm just playing. So colour that into there. And I think I've activated this one. I just want a little bit of purple on there. I'll just use a little bit of soft violet. I think we'll have a purple collar. So again, it doesn't take that long as well, so that's quite nice. Let me just do these first. You are picking up colour as you go, so you don't really have to do that one. So I've managed to get a little bit of highlight onto the bow. So I quite like that. It's very simple. Let's see if I can zoom out a little bit. No, I got to do that. I've just got a little bit onto there, so I've covered all those, haven't I? You still feel them, you see, you can still feel them. Put the pencils away. The only I'm going to just do is maybe the undersides of the toadstools just need a little bit of something. And I think I'm going to do the purple things. So just put these into the right order. Oh, no, I could do that later. So how we're doing for time. We're just going to finish these off. Just touching underneath the toadstools. Just take off that stark white. there's one. I think I'm going to use the soft violet. I think I'm going to change my mind with those little purple. I think I might just tie all that purple together and just do those a little bright colour. That looks a little bit better finished off. I don't know what that was. I haven't got the faintest idea. That kind of noises. So just a dusting. If you're doing it this way, you don't really need to blow them away because you're going to catch that dust and use it as a watercolour. Sorry about the lorries. I think they may have closed the they've probably closed the motorway again, so all the lorries are coming past. And you just need a little bit of something to go onto that one now. Aluminium grey, I think, would be quite nice. Just to go on the metal keys. Just again to take that start white off. Right, so that looks almost finished. So that didn't take long at all. It's about an hour and 20 minutes. So that's not bad for a page. There wasn't a lot of blending, but if I can just do this, you can see, oops, there's some nice colours there. And he's got a bit of a stripy bod. And little flowers. It doesn't want to focus, does it? Come on, focus, focus. I think it's because I'm shaking a bit. These little keys. Oh, I did it then. So I hope you found that okay. I say it took a week. It took an hour and a bit to do. So I quite like that sometimes. Oh, I would think so. I would think so. You can add on to it. I'm sure you can. So I'll take the terracotta on the roof here. Add a bit more shadow to the roof. It's just like ordinary pastel. You just keep adding it, as long as you keep letting it dry completely. You can add a shadow. Oops, I've gone over that there. Now that won't come off because I've wet it. And you could put a shadow in each one of these if you wanted to. You can do anything you want. So again, a damp brush. I didn't get rid of the Venetian, did I? Damp brush. And it's going to leave the highlight and darken. You put it, so there's a highlight there. You just go back into it, and on the roof there. You just keep creating more and more colour. Is everybody okay? So I quite like that. I thought it would be, it's a tiny bit of buckle, the tiniest bit. It hasn't really gone through. It's just because I used a bigger rigger and I got a bit wet, but it's still lovely and flat, and all that pastel is nice and set. So I can go back in and put some more shadow to it if I want to. So have we got any questions? But again, now there's no fixative on there, so that makes it quite nice. Sorry, there could be a bark alert. So I'm going to stop that recording and say thank you for watching. So that was with pastel pencils and a damp brush. Thank you for watching.